welcome to another beer review, and today we're going to be starting one of the mini-series, which is the Welsh mini-series, which is basically beers brewed in Wales. And we're starting off with one of the heavyweights, supposedly. Now there's kind of well-known breweries around about Wales, and probably one of the most best known is Brewery, based in Cardiff. And they've got quite a few different beers, and they seem to be one of the main cask brewers for round about the major cities, so quite a lot of pubs, especially in and around Cardiff and the Cardiff area, which covers Newport and Pontypool and all these type of places, things like that, and Barry and things like that. They seem to be supplied by SA Brains and Company Limited. But they've got a very famous one, which is known as the Rev James. So we're starting off with the Rev James. Now you can get this obviously in bottles, but I think they also sell it in pubs on draft as well. Now apparently it's rich warming ale with a clean and rewarding finish. It's 4.5%. I think these are all under £2 a bottle. I think the most expensive ones from the Brains range is roughly about £1.70. And but I think you're getting it cheaper than that, because I think you get it roughly about £1.50, because they're giving you 4 for £6 in Tesco's right now. So you can buy this in Tesco. This is where I bought it. So it's £1.70, but if you buy it as the range, you're getting it as basically £1.50. So that's not so bad. So apparently it's brewed in honour of the Rev James Buckley, and inspired by the original recipe from 1885, apparently. So there we go. Is there any kind of spiel on the back? Oh God, there is. Right. So the Rev James ales are named in honour of brewing legend the Rev James Buckley, savour of souls and satisfier of thirsts. So it looked like he was also a brewer as well. Brewed with our exclusive Buckley's yeast, they each deliver a signature taste with a surprising finish. Chapter and verse. The Rev James original is rich and well balanced, with a mellow malty flavour that unexpectedly gives way to a clean, refreshing finish. So there you go. And I'll give you a look at it, or not look at it. That's better, just for the thumbnail. So let's crack it open and see what it's like. I just found it very funny because quite a lot of the bridges you're going over, the kind of railway bridges and things like that in Cardiff, they've got, you know, Brains Brewery and things like that. I just find it's quite a strange name to be found in Wales, Brains. It's not a name or surname that people outside of Wales would probably associate with Wales, because they would basically associate probably Jones and things like this, and Brown and all these type of things. Are kind of a few different names, Evans, things like that. You know, that are kind of more stereotypical, kind of traditional surnames and things like that. So let's see what it's like. Getting ever so slight delicate malts. You're getting ever so slight cabbage because it is in a clear bottle. So I'm just getting little wafts of wild cabbage, which is always nice. Not really getting any hops, not getting any grassy or grains, or so just a little bit of malt, just ever so slight accent of wild cabbage. So as if it's been slightly skunked. So as you can see, it's kind of amber colour. So let's see what it's like. This beer actually looked quite similar to, we started a mini-series with the last episode, and that was beers from the Isle of Wight, and this looked quite similar to the Yates, I think it was Islander, that we did in that episode, and the beers look very similar. Certainly don't taste similar. This very light malt, no real kind of caramel. It's just not deep enough to give you a caramel flavour. You are getting slightly kind of oaty, wheaty tones. That type of thing, as if, like, you know, almost biscuity kind of maltiness, that type of stuff, that kind of digestive biscuitous kind of taste. And that's what's sitting in the aftertaste. There isn't really actually much to this. It's a very light ale. They're saying rich, warming ale with a clean, rewarding finish. Getting a kind of a oaty, biscuity kind of malt finish. Getting kind of malt at the start. But it's very light. Maybe getting a bit of hoppiness just coming through mid-tongue. Very light hoppiness and just adding that little bit of bitter tones. So you've got very, very light malt as the main kind of trace flavour going from front to back. So it's just sitting there. It's not getting particularly strong to actually go into the kind of more caramel tones or toffee tones. So you're just getting that kind of light kind of maltiness that basically tapers off to a kind of oatiness finish, kind of a biscuity malt finish. Above that, just coming in after, you know, the front of the mouth, just kind of mid-tongue, you're just starting to get a bit of hoppiness coming in, which is adding a little bit of bitterness accent, but again very light, and that kind of dissipates. So everything just kind of dissipates very quickly. I wouldn't call it a refreshing finish, I would call it a very clean finish, because there is no lingering kind of real aftertaste apart from ever so slight kind of biscuity malt. It just kind of dissipates very quickly and there's no real aftertaste. It's what we call a clean finish from that point of view. It's very sessionable, very easy to drink. It's just not enough. There's not enough there to kind of keep me interested. I feel that the flavour profiles are nice, but there's not really enough of them there to really make it stand out. It feels like it's lacking. It's like it starts off there, but just never really quite delivers what it promises at the start. So you get a little bit of malt, you think, oh, here we go, and here it comes, and it doesn't. And it's like, oh, I can taste a little bit of hops coming down. Here we hear. No, it doesn't. So you're not really, the hops don't really come through strong enough, the malt doesn't really come through enough, and I wouldn't say it's a refreshing finish, I would say it's a very clean and quick finish, really. And yeah, I just feel it's kind of lacking. I mean, it's an alright beer, but for the price point, I would say there's a lot better beers out there, and I've reviewed probably quite a few better beers in the last year, in 2021. So yeah, a bit kind of disappointing from that point of view. And again, I don't know why it's in a clear bottle as well, because there is a little bit of skunking going on there as well, which isn't so great. Not so bad, but there is a little bit, which I think is probably adding a little bit to the bitterness as well. So not all of it's maybe hops, but again, it's just lacking in flavour. They just don't really deliver, unfortunately. Out of 10, what would I give it? For the price wise of the thing, like on average it's £1.70 a bottle, and for the flavour profiles and everything else, I mean, it's a nicely brewed beer from the point of view. You can see it's a nicely brewed beer, it's nice and clear, it's lively, everything else. But flavour wise, it just doesn't quite deliver. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 10, just because price wise and what the flavours are, just doesn't quite deliver. And for the money, well, you can get something a heck of a lot better. Sorry, from that point of view, if you're from Wales and it's your favourite tipple, I'm not trying to noise you up, and I'm looking for good beers from Wales so I can recommend and everything else. I'm not reviewing these to kind of put them down in any way, but I just feel that how the hype is with the Rev James original, I feel it's a bit disappointing, to be totally honest. I expected to get something more and better from that point of view, but hopefully we'll get better ones. Would I recommend? I would recommend you try it, give it a go. It might be different if it's actually in cask. Maybe it doesn't work so well in bottles. It'd be interesting to see what a pint of that from a draft or a cask would be like from that point of view. But yeah, it just doesn't quite deliver. It just seems to be kind of lacking, which is kind of disappointing, really. But anyway, it's the start of the Welsh mini-series, and hopefully things will continue and get better. There's quite a few mini-series we've got lined up. So we're doing the Isle of Wight one, just to kind of remind you, and we're doing the Welsh one, and once we've completed them, we've got some other ones coming up as well. We're going to start looking at American ones. But what we're going to be looking at is the kind of beer trends just now, because the beer trends are finally actually starting to change, and a lot of the kind of reports coming back from the breweries is that they're coming off the kind of, how would you call it, the hop train, basically. They're riding that hop train and going crazy for hops and citrus hops and IPAs here, there and everywhere. And I think now they're starting to look at more kind of malty based beers, that type of stuff, looking at malt for flavour. And I think the craft fraternity call it malt forward beers, is how they put it. I've never heard so much shit in my whole life. Malt was a traditional brewing long before hops. In fact, there's countries around the world that brew beer just with malted grains and no hops at all, and they'll use herbs, including my home country, Scotland. We used herbs to provide bitterness and other types of flavour profiles because we couldn't get hops, because hops couldn't be grown in our country. So there you go. So this idea of, oh, malt forward, oh, get over yourselves, for fuck's sake. It's basically, it's malty based beers really, so the main flavours are all coming from the grains and the malts. So there we go, that's the important thing. It's not malt forward. Yes, some of them will, of course, will have hops to help kind of provide different types of flavour balancing and everything else, absolutely right. But you don't have to use hops, you could use other things to provide flavour balancings and other flavour profiles as well. So, but you try make a beer just with hops alone, you ain't going to get very far. You're still going to need grain and you're still going to need malt. So there you go. So all beers require grains and malt. So this malt forward nonsense I don't understand. In other words, it's more of a malty based beer is the best way of putting it. And apparently that's going to be the kind of new trend for 2022 and onward. The kind of the famous kind of fanatical kind of hop scenario and IPA mentalists are kind of calming down now, and they're kind of going back to partly more traditional brewing and looking at more kind of malt based beers, which is all good for me because hey, I like malt based beers out of the lot of them, so that keeps me happy. Finally, hey, the craft brewing fraternity is seeing sense, realising there's a lot more beers out there that they're missing out on that will balance up the craft beer market, so I'm quite excited about that. So that's us for this review. I think I've went into a little rant again, which I didn't mean to do, but yeah. So, the Rev James, 3.5 out of 10. It's okay, nothing special. Give it a go. If you're in a pub and you see it on draft, yeah, try it. I would give it a go and see what it's like. But would I buy it again? Probably not. There is other ones of the Rev James range, so I might try some other ones, but I've tried the original and, well, I found it a bit lacking. But thanks for watching, cheers, and bye for now.